Welcome to Reason for Today. I'm your host, Joel Bohannon. This is episode number one. Let's see here. I got a lot of different things I'd like to talk about on my program here. But tonight, I want to go completely and totally unscripted. All right. So, there will come a day in your life when you're going to have to choose who you're going to serve. If God be God, serve him. But if you have another God, serve them. You're going to have to make a decision. Over the course of my life, I've had to give up a lot of different things to gain the life that I currently now live. Okay. You may ask yourself the question, well, what did you have to give up, Joel? All kinds of stuff. Number one thing I had to give up, probably the most personal thing, was my desire to want to have friends. You know, I was raised in a certain environment growing up that kind of like isolated me from, society. It had a lot to do with my parents, the religion that they were a part of. The denomination was a very interesting denomination. And by the grace of God, I'm able to stand here today free. So I've had to give up religion. I've had to give up fiancés. I've had to give up friends. I've had to give up relatives. But the number one thing I think that I've had to give up is the the false narrative that I was telling myself in regards to life itself. There are no instructions to the life that we live. You know, your parents, they had their time in the sun. Without being funny, they've shriveled up like raisins or prunes, and they were trying to find out how to live themselves. And so here now we are doing the same thing. And it's been an interesting journey. I struck out on my own when I was 21 years old, leaving my hometown. Now, literally, in this world, there are people who are raising themselves. I was one of them. And I can't give anybody else the credit for that. Now, I did have a parent who spent a lot of time working, and I had another parent who spent a lot of time working also. But literally, once I got off that bus, I was on my own. And I played in the environment that I was in, and it wasn't the most conducive to, well-being and sustainability. I probably worked every job in the small town before I had to repeat. And I went off to school. That was probably the best thing that ever happened to me, to go off to college and to get away from the regular degular, as they would say. And here I am now, 20 years later, coming to the realization that as you matriculate through life, that's a big word, that literally means as you journey through life, you're going to have to leave some things behind. It's just that simple. I remember when I got married in 2015, I drew a line in the sand, and I made a covenant with myself before I made a covenant with my wife, that there were certain things that weren't going to go beyond this line that I had drawn in the sand. And I put myself, my wife, and my future on one side. And then I carefully selected what would journey with me from that point. And to be truthful, I had to literally strike out on my own. And biblically speaking, the Bible says that you are to make your way in the world and then establish your house. So I made my way in the world, went off to school, got 3 college degrees, and gainfully employed. Then I got married. And I had this philosophy when I was going through school that if I didn't have a job and if I didn't have a car, then I didn't really have a need for a girlfriend. I was all about business, and the girls, I it wasn't that difficult to find a girlfriend. I mean, for every one man, there's 5 to 7 women. And but I was a man of honor, a man of valor, a man of high character, and I knew that there was more to life than just ripping and running with from one young lady to another. But I do remember when I did get my car, my senior year of college, I found a young lady. We talked and dated, but I had to leave her behind too. So it's a journey of knowing what you can take with you, and not everything that you have today is going to be able to journey with you into the future. And the worst thing that you can do is try to hold on to something that was only meant to be temporary. And that's oftentimes how we find ourselves in all types of trouble. You don't want to hold on to temporary things when your destiny is calling you. And it's sad, to have to let go of friends and let go of family. And you may think, well, man, you know, but I'm specifically speaking to individuals who are afraid to step out on their own and find their own path. There's a poem that says two paths diverged in the woods, and I chose the one left less trodden. I don't want to be just a mere reflection of somebody else's ideas and somebody else's thoughts. I want to find out who I am and what I'm capable of and what I can do. And I think that for the person who's willing to push forward through the traps that are all around us, I mean, come on now. It's not easy growing up. It's not easy making it out of whatever situation you found yourself in when you came to the realization that, life itself was a ticking time bomb and you only had such an allotted amount of time to make it. And there are pitfalls all around you. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I started out in the hood, but the hood wasn't in me. I was dropped off in the hood, but the hood wasn't dropped off in me. And they say you can take a person out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the person. But the hood was never in me. But oftentimes you'll find that when you're in situations that are not conducive to your well-being, you will pick up things that will help you to endure wherever society has placed you. And to be honest, I became like my environment, although I was not from the environment, simply because that's what it took to be able to survive. And until you're able to truly look at yourself and understand that it's okay to be you all by yourself, the truth of the matter is you may find yourself trying to fit in. You may find yourself trying to blend in. You may find yourself trying to be like your friends or being like somebody that you look up to. But there has to come a day in your life where you realize that it's you against the world. And it's you that has to make the decisions for yourself, regardless of whether or not someone is following behind you or walking beside you. And my philosophy is very simple: change everything until only unchangeable things remain. Your friend from today may not be your friend tomorrow. There's this idiomatic phrase that says you have seasonal friends and then you have lifetime friends. Don't try to make seasonal people long term. And here's another one. I came up with this one all by myself. It basically states that Don't make permanent decisions in temporary situations. As you continue to walk day by day, just living your life, you will eventually learn who's going to be there for you when it's all said and done. When the rubber hits the road, when your back's against the wall, there are going to be people. There are going to be people who are there around you. And I remember talking to my mom, and she would be like, at the end of the day, you may not have met your best friend as of yet. You honestly may not have met your best friend. You may not have met your close friend. You may not have met your significant other. And so you don't want to put all of your eggs in one basket. The best thing I could say is learn how to love, learn how to enjoy the time that you share with individuals, because you don't know how long you will be around to share with that person. You don't know if that person is going to be there forever. And so, as I've journeyed along this way, I've met a lot of people, but I don't really feel as though people have really gotten to know who I am. And I would be honest to say that people really don't have time to really truly invest time in getting to know people. It's not like it was back when I was growing up, when, television was, still being streamed over like antennas, and when cable was a new thing and the internet wasn't so prevalent. And now we got AI, and we got all these different devices that can captivate our minds. And so people really are not building deep, meaningful relationships. Our relationships are so shallow. And it's like, here you are now trying to pour your heart and soul into somebody, and they're not even giving you the time of day. And it's unfair, that we find ourselves faced with such challenges, that people are people and inherently flawed. And if there's somebody listening to me right now, just to be bluntly honest, you don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but we know that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you do not like what you see sometimes. You don't like how you feel sometimes. And the truth of the matter is, and I know that life itself is an interesting thing that we do daily. People say life is short. Life is not short. It's the longest thing you've ever did consistently, and it'll be the longest thing you ever do, no matter how long you live. And so my hope for you would be that you would learn how to live your life for yourself, learn who you are, and begin to walk in harmony with what you desire to do. Because nobody's necessarily going to come alongside you and tell you exactly what to do. But if you start trying to figure it out on your own, then there's a stronger possibility that you will be able to go out into the world and find similar like-minded individuals just like you, who can help you to achieve the goals and the dreams and the desires that you have set for you in your life. And so I encourage you to be willing to walk away from things that no longer fit the person that you're trying to become. People that no longer have the same agenda or mindset or goals or desires or dreams that like you do. To walk away from people who don't have the high caliber of character like you do. People who aren't trying to better themselves. People who just want to continue in that cycle